Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Oh, 1 minute of technical stuff. 1 minute of technical stuff. 1 minute of moving things around my desktop so that I can actually see what's going on. Vocals, check. Image, check. Canvas, check. Headphones, check. Um, Everything live, direct, and connected. The Academy is online for maybe 45 minutes with another dose of daily medicinal language therapy. Already did one show this morning and that had 100 localized views on it, so that's pretty cool. Thank you very much to anyone who tuned in. As usual, we begin with some tunes. And this is something that's old where I come from, but that's where I come from. Here's Geneva's. R.I.P. to the classics.
And do it with myself, go and make it with myself, run and try it with myself, and if you don't want that, I don't care. I don't care.
We will be live.
Enjoy your life.
10 seconds. Yep. Localized and classics. The classics never die. Thank you very much, Genevas, for all the good times and the good songs and the great concerts. Super sweet. It's the Academy. Yes, we're online. Yes, we are going to educate you a little bit. We're not. Sometimes don't you just wish that all information on the internet was presented by, well, somebody who people would like to watch? I was debating with one of my students this morning that she should do the presentations and not me, because she's pretty and she's intelligent, and everybody likes to watch the pretty intelligent people. Nobody wants to see the geezer with the beard presenting the stuff, but that's the way it goes. Right, moving on. What have we got this afternoon for you? I hope you're having a good afternoon, whether you're at work, at home, at school, in between, upstairs, downstairs, wherever. If you're in the clouds or in your basement, remember, you can write in the chat your questions. You can join in the conversation at any point in time. It really is up to you. And I'm going to be writing in the chat as we go through with all the key coaching points. We are the Academy of Language Therapy and Life Coaching. This means that we run courses in the English language, and we try to help people improve the quality of their life. We try to help people achieve excellence in all areas of their life, because everything is connected. Everything is connected to everything else. And there's no point being great at your work if you're not great at home. There's no point being fantastic at home if you can't do your job. So everything has these links. So what's up today? Coming up today, we're going to have a Jordan Peterson presentation, a short 5-minute presentation on chaos and order. Then we're going to And what are we going to do? We're going to have a little look at one of the school remixes where I lose my temper with a client, which happens regularly when people can't see the bleeding obvious. And you need that. You need someone to kick your ass from time to time. If you don't have anyone to kick your ass, what you going to do? Kick your own ass? There are a few motivated people who can do that, but we all need help from time to time. We all need a hand up. We all need a little push in the right direction. And then we might get into a little bit of a David Horowitz interview that I was watching this morning, which explains left-right politics and all the tricks that are involved. Are you still with me? Right. Stay cool. So I promised you a video, which means I should be able to, on my canvas, remove the music. You should be able to see our YouTube channel, the Academy of Language Therapy and Life Coaching. Like and subscribe, 750 plus educational videos. But that's not the point. The point is I would like to introduce to you this gentleman you can see behind my head up there on the screen. Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson, born 1962, is a Canadian clinical psychologist, tenured professor of psychology at the University of Toronto. His research interests include self-deception, mythology, religion, narrative, neuroscience, personality, deception, creativity, intelligence, and motivation. Do you want a bit more? Do you want a bit more? Well, you can read it. It's on his Wikipedia page. Remember, Wikipedia is a great place to start, but a terrible place to finish your research. So make sure you do more. Do more, and you will have more. Where's the video? You promised us a video. Here we go. Let's just slide it back to the beginning. This is from a recent presentation where he is going to talk about, sorry we don't have all the video, but you just get the audio. That's the way it goes. He's going to talk about language and order and chaos, and how language sometimes helps us demystify the world around about us. Talking about demystification, I like it. When things are clear. There we go. We are the Academy of Language and Personal Coaching. So we're going to get into it. I'm going to keep up with the story in the chat, and we've got 5 minutes of this, and then we'll do a little feedback on it. So let me know your opinions. Are we ready to go? Are we ready to rock? Let's do it.
So you would ask that. The question is, speech brings order out of chaos. That's what I said, but it appears that speech brings chaos out of order as well. And the answer to that is it does. There was only so many complications I could address in the talk simultaneously. If you look at the most archaic of archetypal heroes, those heroes confront something that represents chaos. It's usually a monster that bears a treasure of some sort. And that's a symbolic representation of the class of all unexplored things, right? Because things that we have not yet explored are threatening and destructive, but also offer us infinite potential. But more elaborated hero stories, let's say, also reverse that and say that, well, there are times when the order has become so corrupt and rigid that free speech fragments it into its parts so that it can rejuvenate itself. And so, I mean, actually in the Gospels, that's the hero that Christ is basically represented as. He's not so much the dragon confronting the dragon slayer who gathers the treasure, although that's implicit in the juxtaposition of Christ with the figure of like a serpentile Satan. But Christ is the thing that stands up against the corrupt state and rejuvenates it through speech. And so, technically speaking, free speech, the logos, is the thing that mediates between chaos and order. And you can think about, this is represented in many cultures, this idea. You can see it most specifically, I would say, in the Taoist conceptualization, because in the Taoist world, being is made out of chaos and order, yin and yang, masculine and feminine. Fundamentally, it's chaos and order. And order is the fact that wherever you go, there are things you understand. And chaos is the fact that wherever you go, there are things you don't understand. And so the idea is that being is made out of the things that you understand and the things that you don't understand. And it's always that way, which is why Tao is the symbol of being per se. And it's the case. Your brain is adapted, in fact. It's partly why it has two hemispheres, for the world that you understand and the world you don't understand. The world you understand, roughly speaking, being handled by the left, and the world you don't understand, roughly speaking, being handled by the right. Well, it's that line down the middle that's Tao. That's meaning. And if you have one foot in chaos and one foot in order, you're maximizing information flow and rejuvenating yourself at the same time that you're maintaining your structure. And you will report on that internally as engagement in the world. It's the most fundamental orienting sense that you have. And it's deeply instantiated neurologically, unbelievably deeply. And so it really is the case, from an evolutionary perspective, that reality is chaos and order. It's that to which you're adapted. And so sometimes you're speaking on behalf of chaos, and sometimes you're speaking on behalf of order. It's more complicated than that, too, though, because when we have a dialogue, say, and we're mutually attempting to climb towards the truth instead of convincing each other that we're right, say, then what we're doing is engaging in the simultaneous fragmentation of old and archaic belief systems, and they're updating. And you can experience that because someone will say something that sets you back, and then you'll get what they're saying, and it'll click together. And what you're experiencing is the death of an old conceptualization structure, its disintegration, and then its reconfiguration in a tighter order. And people love that. They live for that. It's what keeps you alive. And you can experience that in a deep conversation, a truthful conversation, a meeting of the minds and soul. And people love that. It's curative. All psychotherapists know this. Because what you do in psychotherapy, as well, in addition to helping people face the things that they're most afraid of so that they can overcome them, is to allow them to tell someone the truth. What happened to you? I'll listen. So they tell you. And they take themselves apart and put themselves together while they're speaking the truth about what happened. And it puts them together. It's at the two fundamental elements of psychotherapy are: let's find what you're afraid of and avoiding and help you confront it so that you can gather the information that's there. And let's allow you to lay your story out in all of its catastrophe and detail so that you can straighten yourself out through speech. That's exactly what happens in psychotherapy. So, and it should happen in every real relationship. It's the spiritual purpose of a marriage, fundamentally, right? Because you face someone who's different than you, that you're tied to and cannot run from. And so you can reveal yourself. Really, it's a critical part of marriage. Because if you can run from someone, they will never show you their true face. Because if someone shows you their true face, you will run. And so you say in a marriage ceremony, I will allow you to show me your true face, and I will not run. And unless you mean that, you'll never be married. You'll never understand what it means. And you'll never reap the benefits of it, which are practical, obviously, but also spiritual and psychological. There's a reason for the vow, but it has to be a vow. Because otherwise you have a back door open, and you'll never really tell the person what you're like. And no bloody wonder, because really, who wants to know what you're like? Not even you, that's for sure.
Wow. That was Jordan Peterson presenting his information on language, chaos, and order. There's so much in that. He packs so much punch into such a short space of time there, answering a question. So if you were following me in the chat, I wrote down notes. I'm doing all the hard work for you so that all you have to do is focus. Isn't that nice? Isn't that nice of me to do all the hard work for you? Right. So let's review what he said. Let's have a look at what we said. Let's see how we can use language and his understanding to help us take a step to the next level. Because life is about levels. It's all about taking that little step. It's all about getting to the next level. So bear with me. Bear with me. This is not a 10-second cure-all. This is not a cat falling off a table. This is not a cheap joke. This is life, right? This is life. So Jordan talked about hero stories offering infinite potential. Think about the kinds of fairy tales that we give to children, where the hero comes up against all these odds, all these situations, all of these problems, and has to overcome them. And that's what we're doing in life. Life is getting up, getting dressed, getting out into the world, meeting with problem, solve the problem. Meeting with problem, solve the problem. How do I get there? Solve the problem. How do I get this job done? Solve the problem. Solve the problem. That's all we do all day. I'm hungry. Solve the problem. It's problem to problem. So the hero stories offer infinite potential, personal development. And the ultimate hero story is the story of Christ in the Christian Bible. So you can find other hero stories constantly, everywhere. And there were there were heroes and leaders before, and there have been heroes and leaders since. You follow what you understand. So let's begin. Christ was not a dragon slayer. He did not use violence. He did not advocate the use of the initiation of force. His disciples did carry swords, however. They carried swords because they were not stupid. They knew that they needed to be protected. Everybody needs to carry some kind of protection. That's why America has a Second Amendment. Whether you like it or not, you need to protect yourself. If you're old or unable or disabled in some way or not physically strong, you need to balance the books. You need to balance the situation. So think about it. Think about it. Of course, it's best to avoid conflict, and one great way to do that is through language. Remember, language is the extension of words, and there are only two ways. There are only two ways to resolve any conflict: through swords or through words, and they are essentially the same word. You just move the S, right? Words has the S at the end. Swords has the S at the beginning. So there you go. You get all the secrets here. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Moving on. Christ rejuvenates life through speech. So his choice is to use speech in order to gain an advantage, in order to present reality, in order to show through dialogue that we can improve the quality of things. He also pointed out, Mr. Peterson also pointed out, that being or living or existing is a product of chaos and order. This means that order is what you understand, what you know, and chaos is what you don't understand, what you have yet to know. And I'm sure that you can think of examples where you have felt lost, or that there are misunderstandings because there is chaos in the environment, or that because an idea is not presented logically to you. You ever have that question pop up? The question pop up in the back of your mind, like, what? What's that? Something. Your mind is telling you something's wrong because there's a logic jump in another person's speech or presentation or something. So you have to really be aware of that. So the order and chaos, in a spiritual sense, represents left and right brain thinking. And what we have is, I think the understanding comes of reality comes from the marriage of the two. And it's interesting that we have two brains in our head, not just one. We actually have two there. It's also interesting that science, for all its great progressions, has still to explain what is consciousness. Still, yeah, can you place your finger on a thought? Think about it. So, reality is an adaptation. I think that's meant to be adaptation to chaos and order. So it's how we perceive it. It's how we understand it. Ever been in a situation where you understand everything perfectly, but somebody else doesn't? Or vice versa, you don't understand anything, but somebody else does. This is the chaos and the order. When you understand, you are in order. There's a process. There's a connection. But when you're in chaos, it's just an entanglement that confuses you. So we must work at it. We have to work at it. We have to climb towards the truth, and we need to do that with other people. We must recognize the truth in order to go forward. If you don't accept the truth, it's a step back. Wish I could get that message across to more people. If you don't accept the truth, you cannot progress. So, key points. Face your fear, and that's accepting the truth. To face your fear is just simply to accept the truth that reality is what it is. Something different for everybody. Continuing, you must, with language, take yourself apart. Language is the greatest tool we have for understanding ourselves, for understanding our thoughts, for understanding why we are here. And we stand on the shoulders of giants. We didn't create the language, we have been given the language. And so to not study it, to not use it properly, to not work with it it's a crime. It's a crime if you don't work with the greatest tools that you've been given. You've been given a brain, use it. You've been given a mind, use it. You've been given a choice, use it. You've been given a life, use it. So with language, you take yourself apart, and you then reform yourself. With information, you reform yourself, you reshape yourself. And information is gathered, and you create a new structure for how you view reality. Speech, of course, through conversation, is the ultimate therapy. That's why we are the Academy of Language Therapy and Life Coaching. And the final point, and he made this point in relation to marriage, which is that if you can run, then you will never learn the truth. If there's a way out, if there's an escape, if you don't have to do it, then if you don't need to do it, then you're not going to fully appreciate or understand the situations or choices that you have. Remember, going back to the hero that I talked about at the start, the hero doesn't have a choice. That's why he is the hero. Right, that's my review. Remember, you can write in the chat anything that resonates with you, and you can write any questions. You can even just write hello and let me know that you're out there chilling out. Okay, let me know the audio is going out okay. Let me know the video is visible. I'm getting a bit of static through my headphones. Don't know if that's going out the other side or not. Still dealing with all the technology and all these issues. So we started with Jordan Peterson, and he's an interesting man. I only learned about him recently. The world is full of interesting people, and so it's worth exploring their ideas and taking from them what we can, and accepting and building, which is what I was talking about this morning. If you missed this morning's session, go back on the Facebook page, catch up with this morning's session. A lot of great ideas covered there. So, moving on. What is next? What is next? What do you have for us? Something interesting? Maybe yes, maybe no. So, you should be able to see a picture of some cupped hands with a family inside. The cupped hands represent protection of the family. And as I said at the beginning, a lot of the work that I do is listening. I'm not a speaker. Yes, I'm talking to you right now, but I'm not a speaker. I'm a listener. I listen for logic. I listen for order. I listen for congruency. I listen to see where I can add in a useful input into situations. And sometimes I can do this in a calm and ordered and organized way, and sometimes you really need to just shove people in order to get them moving in the right direction. It's like the rock rolling down the hill. You've got to put in a little bit of energy at the beginning to get it moving, but once it gets started, off it goes. So isn't that what we do with kids? Anyway, sometimes we need to do it with adults as well. So this is a short audio of a real coaching session that happened within the school, where I was discussing within the academy, where I was discussing what happens when we don't realize that our parents are being overprotective. We tend to think of our parents as gods, because when we're very small, they're very big, and when we know nothing, they know everything. So that's why we think of them as gods. But really, they very often misguide us rather than guide us. And what we think is great might not be so great. We don't know any better because we're kids. We don't really know how the world works. We have to learn from them. And they can teach us a lot, but not everything. I think there's always more that we can learn. And in this short clip, I talk about how the fears that exist in the person are really not their fears, they're their parents' fears. Their parents have not only taught their children about the good things that they have to offer, their skills, but they've also delivered to their children their fears at the same time. And we very often don't realize it. And so this is a little clip that I put together explaining that and how that works. I will be hanging around in the background while I play this. It's only 2 minutes long, so I hope that you find some sense in it. It's entitled Another Overprotected
Maybe everything, but maybe
Childhood,
not everybody.
with a bit of blues in the background.
Maybe you made lots of decisions about things, but not lots of decisions about people. Because you didn't have an opportunity to have nice relationships with people. Yeah, because you were overprotected. In the eyes of your mother, everybody, let me explain. In the eyes of your mother, everybody was bad. So she had to protect you from everybody. Yes, of course. You think no, but she thinks yes. It doesn't matter what you think or what you thought, because you were a child. Your opinion was not important, because your mother knew everything. So because everybody was bad, she kept you away from them, and she overprotected you and didn't give you the opportunities you needed to develop and to grow. It's a perfect picture. It fits. You were overprotected because this protection was not for you. This protection was for her. The protection was it was her fears, it was her problems, it was her philosophies, it wasn't yours. And so she formed this protective bubble, and she put you inside the protective bubble with her, and so you could not grow and have contact with people outside. Show me a child that does not want to communicate.
Yeah. Show me a child that does not want to communicate. And I'm just going to finish typing. How big should the bubble be? how much should we protect our kids? Parents are naturally overprotective of their children because they're responsible for them. I think good parents are slightly overprotective, but you have to learn to let go. And I'm not talking about letting go completely, because that would be neglect. That would be not giving anything at all to your children. So both extremes would be negative. But it's really important to realize that life is about patterns, and a lot of the patterns that we have come down generation to generation, in this example, from the parents directly to the children. And the children then have the same problem with their children when they grow up. So all of these things repeat. They're all little patterns. So just to review that little point, it's a very short point, but a very pertinent point, that every opportunity that we have, every experience is a chance to learn. And so if we're limited in the experiences we have, then we're limited in the learning that we can have as well. Do our parents pass on their fears to us? Well, if they pass on their habits, they could pass on their fears as well. So a little bit of self-analysis. What are my fears? What are their fears? Is there a pattern there? And then finally, how big should the bubble be? How big should the protection around children be? When do you let them go out on their own? When do you let them ride their bike by themselves? What time should they come home in the evening? I know of people who are 18 years old and their parents tell them, you have to be home before dark, even in winter. You've got to let go a little bit, because the pressure builds up and it will explode eventually. Maybe not at that point in time, but many, many years later, it will explode. And if it doesn't explode, you'll just bottle it up inside and pass it on to your kids, and that's not cool. That's not a good thing to do. That's not the right thing to do. So I wanted to share that little idea with you. Little things make big differences. That should be the title of my next book, I think. Little things. I always find myself saying little things make big differences. Look back through the previous videos. You'll hear it again and again and again. So once again, welcome to the live language therapy life coaching session with the Academy. More information online, nsa-slovakia.com. It's up there somewhere. That's our homepage. Lots of free videos, lots of free information. Run through the courses. If you've got any questions, we do free consultations. We can do Skype HD. Happy to help if I can. So moving on. So we're even going further into the level of, what am I talking about? I'm talking about depth here. I'm talking about depth. Now we've looked at left and right side brain principles and ideas, and chaos and order, and I guess we should also reference the Hegelian dialectic as well with that, which is the principle that this pressure between left and right guides us in one direction. Think about, imagine in your head a picture of a person. Person has two legs which keep them walking in a straight line. If you had one leg, you'd just fall over, basically. So, and that's how politics works. Those two sides are putting pressure on each other to guide us in a specific or sometimes non-specific direction. And because of the present state of the world, it's great. The word state meaning country, also is synonymous with very bad things happening, right? He's in a state, meaning that he's in a very bad place or he's in a very bad position. So we have all these states, right? Anyway, nonsense. What do I want to get to? I want to get to this gentleman here. You should be able to see on the screen. David Horowitz, born January the 10th. January child. All the best kids born in January, right? David Horowitz, born January the 10th, 1939, is an American conservative writer. He is a founder and current president of the think tank, the David Horowitz Freedom Center, editor of the center's publication, Front Page Magazine, blah, 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 director of Discover the Networks, a website that tracks individuals and groups on the political left. Horowitz founded the organization Students for Academic Freedom to oppose what he believed to be political correctness and leftist orientation in academia. Academia? On the left? How could it be? How could it be? Anyway, he's a man with an opinion. What was the phrase that was used? Salon editor Joan Walsh described him as a conservative provocateur. I think that just means that he has an opinion, and some people can't handle the fact that other people have opinions. Grow up. So what's the point? The wars, the information wars that are going on all around about us. This is an interview with David Horowitz conducted by a man called Alex Jones, who runs a show called InfoWars. They have a lot of interesting points in their discussion. Alex tends to talk over Mr. Horowitz, but that just shows you what his insecurities are. So I'm going to take a step back, going to make some notes, because always make notes as you go through, because then it helps you remember. I know I'm stating the obvious, but a lot of people forget that. They seem to think they're going to be able to remember everything. They're not. You're not. So the reason why I make notes while I'm playing the videos is to help you. I know what's there already, but we need to bring out the key points. So we're going to play through the interview, and hopefully you're going to learn a little bit about history, and agree or disagree, feel free to write in the chat, and we'll take these steps forward together. If you
So he joins us now to talk about the state of the world. A lot of people told me, like Roger Stone when he was here on election night, relax, there'll be prosperity, people will be happy. I said, they're not going to stop. I saw the crazed behavior. I see the left yell at me in public and threaten me. I've never seen anything like this. It's total mental illness. So perhaps David Horowitz, one of the top experts on this disease, can break down what's happening. David, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Alex. It is a disease. Look, the left is a crypto-religious movement or a religious cult. And by left, I include the Democratic Party, progressives. They have all these names that hide what they actually are. But they believe the world is a fallen place, although they wouldn't use such an expression. It's a place of oppression, hierarchy, domination, and so forth. And they believe in a redemption. But the redemption is going to be carried out by them instead of a divinity. True religions understand that we're the problem. It's people that are the problem, and therefore you really can't fix it. And that's why, conservatives are prone to a kind of fatalistic view. Things are probably going to get worse. And that handicaps them in this battle. But for the left, there's this promised land. I'm afraid the Jews are responsible for this idea. There's this promised land, which used to be called communism or socialism, but now it's called social justice, where all their dreams are going to be fulfilled. So if you understand that they're a religious cult, you will also understand that they see themselves as the army of the saints, and they see the rest of us, those who don't go along with their program, as the party of the devil.
And I mean, in fact, that's what they say. It's just wild. So Rachel Maddow, college professors, they're all in the priesthood.
That's right. And they see, that's what they talk like hellfire and damnation preachers all the time. That's why the Democrats are so effective politically. Everything they say is a moral indictment. Republicans talk like accountants. It doesn't motivate people as powerfully as the left's vision does, and it doesn't kill their enemies the way the left resort to, calling you a racist, sexist, homophobe, deplorable. The Democratic Party is a party of hate. It runs on hate all the time. And that it sort of glues up their mind. So when they see Islam, they see people of color because they're racists. The term people of color is a racist term. We don't speak that way in English. There they are.
So it's cult programming, exactly. So where are they now? What's happening to them worldwide? Why are they like tripling their viciousness?
So I'm going to jump in here because I've just played a couple of minutes of the interview, and there's so much information coming out that I want to stop it, I want to analyze it, I want to give you my take on it, and I want you to think. Remember that think contains the word ink, and ink is that stain that you cannot remove. And so your thoughts are the stain on the actions that you create in your life. It's these are indelible ideas locked into your mind that will create action. So you have to be very careful with them. That was not a very clear description, but I think you get what I mean about the power of the thought. So, what does he say? He starts off with a very provocative statement, and I guess he's trying to stimulate the mind to think. He's trying to stimulate people and wake them up with the statement, which is that politics is a disease. Now, the word disease is interesting because it's dis-ease, meaning not at ease, not easy, or not relaxed. So the reason for your disease is that you are not relaxed or imbalanced within your body. And politics thrives on things not being balanced. So there's a very strong connection there. He also says that the names that are used, whether you're conservative or left-wing or right-wing or liberal or Labour or Republican or Democrat or whatever else, that the names hide the cults, the culture, the domination, the habit. And think about that with you as a person. Your name is not you. I'm sorry, but your name is not you. Can't stress that enough, can I? True religions understand that people are the problem and that cannot be changed. Yeah, everything comes from the fact that people are the problem. Government is not the problem. Government doesn't exist. It's an abstract entity. Buildings exist, and buildings are created by people. So people are the motivators of change. So people are in essence the problem. That's why we have to get rid of so many people. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that we have to develop understanding and work with each other. Please excuse me for a second while I drink my tea with honey. And bash my microphone at the same time, right? Where were we? Names hide things. Names obfuscate reality, right? The promised land. Yes, anyone who promises you something. Most people who promise you things are not going to deliver them to you. They just want something more from you. Politicians are the classic example, but this happens amongst families and friends as well. When I was a teenager, I developed a theory. It's called the theory of the promise bearer. Those people who promise to do things and never fulfill those promises and leave other people just standing, waiting. Beware those that bear and hold promises, or present you with promises. Hell, I don't even keep my own promises to myself sometimes, you know? We go through that as human beings. Politicians are like army generals. Yes, they're leading their tribe, their group, their cult, their soldiers, the people who have been sold to them. The political parties are priesthoods. Yes. In essence, that they are. There's very little difference between political party and religious group. In fact, many religious groups form political parties because they're basically the same thing. And
well, because they see that Trump is a serious threat. Brexit is a threat.
Wow,
you know, they like governments which are completely unresponsive to the people, because the people are the problem.
Let's do it.
That's why they put so many people in the gulag and shoot so many people when they get the power, because they have a program to
Exactly. Their religion has reduced the Earth's population. David Rockefeller, Bill Gates, they're the high priest of all this. And their final secret, I guess, that you learn in the cult is people are the problem, kill everybody.
Well, yeah, that's the end game. But along the way, people are the problem because they don't go along with their socialist ideas. This is the problem. They got defeated in the election. They can't accept that, so they call it a resistance. And this is true.
And you predicted 20-plus years ago exactly what would happen in the future, because now I've read most of your books. Then tell us, looking forward, Mr. Horowitz, what's going to happen in the future if we don't really take action, and what we should do to stop these people, because they're clearly bloodthirsty authoritarians.
Well, yeah, I mean, Dianne Feinstein said the other day that their strategy is to impeach Trump. That's what these hearings are about. And these hearings show how stupid Republicans are. Why would Devin Nunes call a hearing on the Russian collusion when there's no evidence of it?
He's playing along like a little cucked coward.
Well, no, it's because they think they can appease these people. He thinks that, okay, we'll hold hearings and then they'll see we're reasonable and we actually want to see da-da-da-da.
No, it shows weakness and they attack more.
Exactly. That's not what the hearings are about. These Democrats, they don't even ask questions that Comey can answer. They read indictments.
They just say, is Russia the enemy?
And it's all coordinated.
And then they go, is Trump talking to Russia? Well, of course the president talks to Russia. That's this new thing. Like, if he ever talks to Russia, it's illegal.
His right mind could think that Trump is colluding with the Russians against America. The only people who are capable of that are Democrats.
In fact, you're an expert on this. Your parents were involved in it. I mean, the whole history, it's always Democrats with the Russians.
My mother was a card-carrying communist and a registered Democrat. And there are lots of those. Lots of them. But you don't have to be a member of the Communist Party to think like a communist. You just have to believe that there's an earthly redemption called social justice or communism, the same thing, and that if you get enough power and you demonize your opponents enough and destroy them, you can achieve this wonderful redemption.
Meanwhile, they call us bullies. So what's their plan to get Trump out? And if they get him out, what do we expect and how do we stop him?
Well, they're playing that. First, it's to tar him with this Russia brush. But look, they've driven. Trump has done so many. I mean, you discussed some of the amazing things he's already done. It's only 2 months. You know, he's got the stock market.
Which, by the way, your book breaks down. Let's talk about your book.
Big agenda. Trump's plan to save America. Yeah, I have all the things that you knew he was going to do. You know, during the campaign, when he was a little bit more unknown what he would do as a politician, people said, oh, he's not going to fulfill any of his promises. But here's a guy who puts his name on everything he does, puts his name on his buildings, his resorts, his airplanes.
His whole dynasty is about legacy, is about delivering.
Correct. His reputation. There's no way on earth he's not going to build the wall.
That's why he's doing it. And so they get more and more enraged.
Exactly. Well, they don't hear and they don't see. I mean, it's so hypocritical. Here, Hillary actually violated the espionage laws. She lied to the FBI. She lied to the public. She lied to the Congress. She shared our secrets with all our enemies, not just Russia, but North Korea, Iran, China. And she
It's total projection. Everything they say about Trump.
Correct.
In fact, it's almost sickening how good he is. He's like so good compared to them. It's such upside down world. Then they project everything they are admittedly onto this guy who's got the whole corrupt elite against him because he's delivering prosperity.
Correct. Once you understand it's a religious cult, you can they don't think.
And by the way, Bannon admits, he reads you, he wants to break their cult. Those are his writings, obviously inspired by your truth, because you're just seeing objective truth. We're like following Horowitz here. It's true. It's a cult. They're the new priesthood. They want to take over like Jim Jones or something, or North Korea. And then Trump wants to break the cult by prosperity and independence.
Yes. You know, when you're talking about your upbringing and my upbringing in the communist progressive Democrat world was to see the world entirely in terms of oppression. There were people who were oppressed and there were oppressors. And as I said, that phrase, people of color, that's the key. It's not English. We don't say, here's a box of crayons of color. That's the way French people talk. But if you call them colored people, you're a racist. So what is the function of this ideological construct, people of color? Well, look at Mexico. It's got two main ethnic groups. The descendants of the Spanish conquistadors who slaughtered the indigenous Indians and the descendants of the survivors of the indigenous Indians. But when they cross the border into America, they're both people of color, therefore oppressed, therefore deserving certain sensitivities and certain privileges. But if you think further, Maharajas in India are people of color. The beheaders, the Islamic beheaders in Raqqa are people.
Sure. I mean, it's a way to just take classical racism that we've heard of the last 200 years here and just flip it.
Exactly right. The only people in the world who aren't people of color and therefore are oppressors, not oppressed, are white people. This is a massive anti-white racism that the Democratic Party, that's what it's about. They look at your origins. It's why they do all these gotcha moments. You have money.
I've also found the left, it always gets caught funding the white supremacist movements. Like the top guy will really be a federal agent, and the people under him, they're running around. It's very sophisticated. Or Soros funding all the Black Lives Matter groups. I mean, what's all that about? Just, I guess, a strategy of tension?
Blacks are the battering ram to destroy the system. Those blacks that follow organizations like Black Lives Matter is a racist organization. The left has always been anti-police. I mean, that's what we hated. The police are an occupying force in our country. That's the way the left looks.
And the police can be good or bad, but the point is they want control in the bullying of the police to then persecute everybody.
The police are bad because they protect property. And you have to think like a leftist. That's the way they think. So Black Lives Matter, of course Soros is funding them. Soros is an anti-American, self-hating Jew is what he is.
Yeah, what is his problem? I mean, this country gives him freedom and everything. He tries to destroy it.
Another great question there. There's so much information which is getting thrown out. Some hits the target, some misses the target. I should have just focused on just this one interview and breaking it down and analyzing it, because we could go on and on and on forever. So where did I finish? I finished with, I can't remember what the last thing I said was. The end game, the hate. Okay, yeah. If you're driven by hate, you're not going to have a positive political effect, because you're not going to have a positive effect if you're driven by hate at any point in time, unless you're an MMA fighter. Perhaps you might be able to channel your anger with your parents into winning quite a lot of money in that situation. But other than that, I can't really think of any other positive effect. People of color is a racist term. I'm not even going to get into that because I'm not even sure that I can explain that. The threats around us are everywhere. We have to learn to live with that. All these safe spaces. I mean, the planet is not safe. We've got volcanoes, tidal waves, hurricanes, tsunamis, which is kind of like a tidal wave, I suppose. We're flying through space. We've got animals eating each other. It's a pretty wild place. So there are very few true safe spaces. And why do adults need safe spaces anyway? I mean, I don't really get that. A place to work, I understand that. Like, got an office, safe space, but oh, we need safe spaces on our campuses at universities because their opinions are offensive to me. Oh. Oh dear. Oh dear. Just go out, have a beer, chill out, sit down, talk, and find some common ground. There is always an end game. There's always an end game. What is the end game? Where is it going? Where is it going to finish? Do you know how it's going to finish? Can you see the end? There's one psychological theory that says you can always see the end at the beginning. You look very closely at the beginning, you can see how it's going to end. And the classic example is easy come, easy go. Easy come, easy go. There you go. So what's the end game? Where's everything going? Can you see what's the end point? I mean, if there are more and more people each year working for the government and less people working for independent private businesses each year, and it increases slowly by 1% each year, how is that going to end? Where's that going to finish? Tell me. Or are people just crossing their fingers and hoping that it's not while they're alive? Or I don't get that personally. You can't appease leftism when leftism is Marxism. You can't. Sometimes you'll be nice to people and you'll give them something and they'll take everything. That's just the way some people are. Sometimes you'll be nice to people and they will attack you for no reason. That's just the way that they are. Some people are just not good people. Which is probably not their fault. It's probably the way they were brought up and the people that they were surrounded by. There's a lot of coordination. It was also mentioned there's a lot of coordination in the questions and answers that happen between the media and the government and within the government itself. The whole world is a stage. Beware of the plays and the actors. And on, why are people surprised? So people are surprised because they're not used to a politician doing what he said he was going to do, and that's what the American president has done, exactly what he said he was going to do. It's like Barack Obama did a lot of exactly what he said he was going to do, but not as much as Trump. Anyway, there's a relationship to the ego, there's legacy, how will history tell the story of your interaction in things, probably unjustly, but it does that for everybody, so there's no reason to worry. Political parties, very much like cults. Cults seldom think, so the people in the political parties are not thinking. For those in the party, everything. For those against the party, nothing. And I see that very much in the world around about me at the moment, where if you want to build a building or renovate a building or have a position, you need to be a card-carrying member of the political party. And I could get into that a bit more about how that works. A big long speech earlier today about that. I might put that up on YouTube. We will see. Sensitivity and privilege are the political keys today. Yes, for those in, everything. For those outside, nothing. Do you belong to the party? Yes, well, here you go. These are your privileges. And sensitivities is that's how you get people to react. You get people to respond emotionally rather than factually. When you've got an emotionally based culture, society, entertainment, and education system, all you're going to get is ridiculous emotional reactions by people who don't understand what fallacies are. Simple false arguments. So other elements to think about, where are you from? What does that mean? Which is the fact that everybody comes from somewhere, and this affects who they are and what they think. Interesting point that Horowitz brought out, that the left are anti-police because police protect private property, and the left don't think that there should be any private property. Everything should be owned by the state. Again, interesting point of view. Wow, there is so much going on there. You know, I could go on and on and on and on with this interview, but I don't want to bore you, because we've drawn out so much that's great in there already. I want to thank you for following this. I want to thank you for paying attention. I want to thank you for the value that you add to this when you listen. The notes for everything important are written in the chat, so feel free to browse through that on Facebook at your leisure. If you want to help, if you want to be really, really helpful, you can right-click on the video on Facebook. You can copy the URL and you can paste it on your homepage or somewhere else where other people will see it, and maybe they'll get something positive out of it. If you're interested a little bit more in what we do, we are the Academy of Language Therapy and Life Coaching. We do a lot of Skype work, coaching individuals in the English language and in personal development. Our aim is to help people to grow day by day and step by step. The same way we want our organization to grow day by day and step by step, hopefully to become a respected reference for teaching and coaching. All of this work we do holistically together with the clients and their businesses and the community around about us as well. Learning is a whole lifelong experience, and it's not just the mind, it's also the body. So we also get into health and wellness elements. So wellness, is that a word in English? I'm not even sure wellness is a word. I think I've just adopted it because I live in Slovakia and people use it all the time. I'm pretty sure that English people never say wellness. Pretty sure. Anyway, that's the way that it goes. So we got through Jordan Peterson. We got through me losing my temper and an explanation to a client. And we got to see a little bit of the discussion between David Horowitz and Mr. Jones. You can find that discussion online. All you have to do is type in the name David Horowitz and Alex Jones, and you'll find more information about that for sure. And if you can't find it, send me. Hey, you know what I can do? I can copy and paste the link, and I can do all the links into the chat. See, I'm not thinking properly today. Links. I can put the links for everything into the chat, so I can paste this link for the Alex Jones. I can paste this link for my remixed overprotected childhood explanation, and I can post this link as well for Jordan Peterson speech. And so you've got the links and my notes together. How cool is that? Fantastic. Right. If you want more information and you want to catch up with these presentations every day, then you need to link to me on Facebook, Graham W. Hendrey, or the Academy of Language Therapy and Life Coaching. We have a business page and a private group that you can apply to join as well if you want free daily online sessions and coaching. Right. That's about everything. I wanted to keep it short. That never happens. I'll keep it shorter in the future for sure. If you believe that. I've got got a bridge I want to sell you. So, tuned in today. Fuck yourself! More presentations will be online tomorrow. Tune in. At your pleasure and leisure.